Hey, PJ Halloran, welcome back to the Rescue Lab podcast. We've got an awesome episode lined up today. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most unique technical rescue teams in the world. While most rescuers use rope, confined space, shoring, and hazmat skills to save lives, Kevin Johnson used the same rope skills to recover evidence, support terrorism investigations, and operate in some of the most hazardous crime scenes imaginable as part of the FBI's laboratory's Technical Hazards Response Unit, or the THU. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. I know I've been hounding you for a little bit, but it's awesome to have you here. And I think I reached out to you. I saw you posted, I think it was a job opening for the Through online.
Sure did.
And I was like, what is this unit? And I had to reach out. And the story, we were able to connect. The story that you told me and the background of that unit was just unreal. And I think it's important for people in tech rescue to understand that there's this whole different side of tech rescue that's out there. And that's why I think this episode is so cool. But just to begin, how did you go from, a traditional emergency services background to one of the most specialized response units in the federal government?
Great question. So first off, thank you for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Of course.
So I started my public safety career in Jefferson County, Kentucky, which is where the city of Louisville sits. Started as a volunteer in 76, and that quickly transitioned to a paid career. We had a third service EMS system, fully paid. Jefferson County Emergency Medical Services. And so I started doing the EMS thing. I was still staying on the volunteer fire department. The department I was on was automatic response to a neighboring department. Well, the department I was on was Dixie Suburban. Lake Dream was a neighboring department. And they had about 26 chemical plants along the Ohio River in an area called Rubbertown. And so that's how I learned hazmat. By default,
You're the guy.
We were just there. And you got to understand, this is before SARA Title III. This is before Superfund. This is before Right to Know. So it was trial by fire, and we went to these things. So my public safety career transitioned to a paid career with the EMS system, which was third service. And when SARA Title III was enacted in 1986, and particularly the rules on establishment of hazmat teams in communities within an LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee, the county had a need to start a hazmat team that was comparable to the city of Louisville's fire department hazmat team. The problem was we had 22 volunteer fire departments. So the challenge for that was they actually looked to EMS. And so in EMS, we started the hazmat team. And this was a type 1 mitigation hazmat team, patching and plugging the whole bit.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that. Everything was great. And this is where the tech rescue comes in. In 1994, OSHA passed 1910-146 for the confined space standard for permit required confined spaces. And again, the fire department's working with the EMS system where I worked. We created a technical rescue unit in the EMS system as a subset of the hazmat team. Because as you know, there's not a big leap from hazmat to confined space. A lot of the same tools that are used. So we started the technical rescue unit for the county EMS system. Very quickly got some pretty high profile jobs. We had a rescue and a concrete silo, and we just started developing a trench rescue team with the county fire departments. We had a bunch of actual rescues, which is unusual in the trench rescue business.
Yeah.
So we did that, and I was living my life. I was working part-time as a flight paramedic at University of Louisville Trauma Center. Life was good. I was on the county police dive team as a dive rescue medic. So I was just, this is where I thought I was going to be. And then in 1998, I found out about this unit at the FBI. And the reason I found out about it is because a friend of mine who I taught with, not with him, but in other classes at the hazmat conference in Baltimore.
Yep.
At the time it was in Towson, Maryland. A guy named Steve Patrick. Steve Patrick was a Virginia State hazmat officer. So he covered Northern Virginia, and he was retired from Newport News as a fire paramedic and was a flight paramedic. It's the same old story, right?
Yeah.
So I found out about this job from Steve, and I was talking to him about some work we were doing in Louisville area for preparation for WMD stuff. And I actually met him in his office in Quantico. And about halfway through the conversation, he says, "Hey, you want a job?" And I said, "Well, I have a job." I said, no.
You want another job?
You want another job with the FBI because we're starting this team and I'm putting the band together. So that started the process. I turned in my application February of 99, and by July I was working or August 1st, I was working at the FBI. So
that's so cool. I mean, especially if they were putting the program together, you were on the ground floor of that. And
yeah, there were 7 of us to start, and it was really cool being in that because And I use the analogy, and Steve Patrick would say this often, that we were building the airplane while we were flying it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we didn't know because we thought we were coming in to just do white powder letters and things like that. Little did we know within 3 years or 2 years, within 2 years, we were going to be at 9/11 sites. And then a month after that, working the anthrax case for the next 8 years, and then all the other stuff in between. So it was really great getting in on the ground floor.
Absolutely. I mean, when you first heard about it, when he first approached you and said, "Hey, I got this, we're standing up this technical hazard response unit." I mean, was that immediate? Like, yeah, I'm in. Or did you?
Yeah. And you got to understand the culture of the FBI. So at that time, the culture of the FBI was we will train our existing agents to do anything that needs to be done, and that was how they did things, which was fine. But you got to remember what was going on in the country in the late 90s. We had, after the attacks overseas in Japan with Nerve Agent, and then Oklahoma City, those were both in 95. And then we had the Olympics coming to town in 96. So the Bureau had the FBI laboratory had started a process to build this unit. And again, they were planning to use the people who were already working in the lab. They hired Steve Patrick and another gentleman who's retired from our unit, Steve Ray, who at the time was a captain with the Fairfax County Fire Department over the hazmat station, and who was also the hazmat guy on Virginia Task Force 1. They hired both them to teach a hazmat class for the people who were going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And somewhere between vapor pressure and boiling point, they were like, "Whoa, we need to hire people like you." So that's how the whole thing started. And I could tell you, as time went on, in the early days, there was a lot of skepticism as we went to work with fire departments. "Oh, it's the FBI. You're here to take over." And that absolutely was not the case with our unit, especially because we had been on the other side of the fence. And it was funny that in the early days, we would go on a mission to some place, and we'd go to the fire station, introduce ourselves, and, "Oh, the FBI's here." And I could sense that they were not digging it, right?
Of course.
So I'd look over, "Hey, that's a good looking Pierce Quinch you got there. Is it a 1250 pump on that thing?" And they're like, "Who's this FBI guy
speaking the same language?"
Talking my language. And that I cannot tell you how much that has paid off over my entire career, having the fire service background.
Yeah.
Because you just, until you've been in the shoes of a public safety responder, you just don't understand the culture. You don't understand the challenges that they have.
Yeah, I think that's super important, especially the culture side. Like, you can just blend right in, go to work, and you don't have to worry about it. So when you were getting on the team, what did the selection process look like so early on? And was there anything that surprised you as you went through it?
It was the most rigorous background check I had ever experienced. I mean, they went all the way back to high school.
Yeah.
But you got to understand, every single FBI employee has at least a top secret clearance. And for our unit, because we were going to be doing weapons of mass destruction, I needed top secret plus SCI, which is sensitive compartmentalized information. So it was very rigorous. So background investigators, talking to your neighbors, talking to your teachers, talking to your coworkers, talking to your bosses.
Yep.
Polygraph,
oh, wow.
which is not fun.
No.
But that was the process. The early people that were approached by Steve Patrick were all his idea. So let me give you a picture and understand, because it was the Bureau and because it was this national high level team, that we attracted the best of the best. And I'm not saying that because I'm sitting here talking to you. When I tell you who the first 7 people were, you'll get it.
Yeah.
They hired a guy who's actually now the current unit chief. And by the way, I'm not going to use any names of any current employees.
Understood.
But the guy, he was a chief at a rescue squad in Northern Virginia, and he worked for the National Fire Academy and actually wrote the first Fire Academy's Weapons of Mass Destruction terrorism course. So hired him, and also he had worked for FEMA and was at Oklahoma City.
Makes sense.
For them. We hired a coworker of his who was a microbiologist, who's also in the rescue squad, but is a microbiologist for the Navy. We hired a assistant chief from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, who was on Pennsylvania's task force, USAR task force. We hired of course, Steve Ray I told you about. And so this was the caliber of the people that we were bringing on board. Yeah. And as time went on, and as we start moving this conversation to tech rescue, we did the same thing. with our tech rescue folks. So that was the transition. Got on board. I could tell you a big part of the early days was to train field teams. So the FBI has 56 field offices. 10 of those were selected to be the first hazardous evidence response teams, and so these would be people who collect hazardous evidence.
Yep.
So we spent a tremendous amount of our first couple of years getting these people on board. And because there were only 7 of us and we still had missions running, we actually recruited fire service instructors to help us teach. And this is another who's who that helped us teach. Bob Royal, Houston Fire; Bill Hand, Houston Fire; Danny Snell, Houston Fire; Tony Musafidi, and Bob Ingram from FDNY. Yeah. We hired, they were contract. They were not Bureau employees, but we already knew all these guys.
Yeah.
It was Bob Stout from Virginia State Police and Andy Burns from Utah, from Orem, Utah. So it was like every time we taught a class, it was like old home week. It was a lot of fun. Each of these classes. Glenn Rudner, who's with the state of Virginia. So I know I'm not naming everybody, but this is because of who we were able to attract this and get these quality instructors.
Oh, of course. I mean, if you're standing up a unit of that caliber, you need the best to roll that out. Now
you do. And there was also an expectation that we weren't going to hire you and then teach you how to be a tech rescue hazmat guy. You already needed to know how to be a tech rescue hazmat guy. And then the Bureau would teach you how to deal with evidence.
Yes.
And how to.
That's an important part I think you bring up. So, obviously a firefighter is tuning in, he's heard of the FBI. Everyone's heard of the FBI. But when they hear through and they hear the Technical Hazard Response Unit, I think they're thinking, hey, they're going to jump in through a window on rope and rescue a hostage. But what is the through's actual mission?
Thank you. That's great analogy. So there are people in the Bureau that do jump through a window.
Pretty cool too.
Those pretty cool. So and those folks are with the SWAT teams and with the other unit at Quantico. That's all tactical. That's for the purposes of dealing with adversarial threats and things like that. Our unit was actually part of the FBI laboratory, and our mission was to collect hazardous evidence in support of complex forensic operations. So you got to understand there are 56 field officers or 56 evidence response teams in those offices, and every day you've all watched the news. When you see them go into a house and they're walking out with the file boxes and everything else, that's what they're doing. And they do homicide scenes. They do everything. They do bank robberies. It's full, I hate the analogy, CSI stuff.
Which CSI though? I'm a Miami guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Crime scene investigation. But
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't happen in an hour. I can tell you that. But so on a normal day, they're fine that they're 100% good to go. But what happens when that evidence is in a hole? What happens when, I'll give you a great example. We got called by Boston field office. Their ERT had reports there was a body from decades ago at the bottom basically behind an old abandoned power station in Providence, Rhode Island. It was a mafia job. And they say, hey, we need to dig this body out. I said, well, yeah, but you need to not let it be a trench. And so we went up there to help them make it not a trench to get to the body. So that kind of stuff.
Now, did you guys have to employ any type of shoring, or are you able to work around that?
No. And so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here with the shoring stuff. Whenever we could, we avoided allowing things to become a technical job. Yeah. I know that sounds weird.
Yeah.
So for example, in that case, I didn't trench it. I benched it back. I made it an excavation. So it was not a trench. And which was a switch, right? Because in my trench rescue days, we would just dig a hole, throw the shores in, throw the panels in, and then, use whalers and subshores. And that's what we did. And all that stuff is in the way if you're trying to look for a body. So, and here's the other thing. Time is on your hand. It's evidence. It's not going anywhere. So we had.
I think you mentioned it's a recovery at that point. You were able to slow it down to the point where you can
100%.
Just look all this stuff over.
100%.
Yeah.
So anyway, kind of get back to where I was going with the early days. We were fat, dumb, and happy. We were going along, and then 9/11 happens. So, and we, for whatever reason, all 7 of us were sitting in our office at Quantico, and that almost never happened. But that morning, and we had one TV in the shop, and one of the guys is in a break room, and one guy says, "Hey, some idiot just flew a plane into the World Trade Center," like thinking it was a private plane, like we all did, right? So we all come in and look. Oh, that's weird. And then we watched the other plane hit and we went, oh, okay, here we go.
Yep.
So by the end of the day, myself and the gentleman who was the assistant chief in Wilkes-Barre had responded to Shanksville. But the two guys who were on the rescue squad in Northern Virginia that we had hired, they knew everybody at the Pentagon. So they went to the Pentagon. Patrick Steve Ray went to, and we had another gentleman who had come to us from Colorado, went to the Trade Center. And also at this time, we had just hired another gentleman from Virginia, from Chesterfield County, and he went to the Trade Center. So we had 4 at the Trade Center, 2 at the Pentagon, 2 in Shanksville, and that was it. We're done. We're done.
Yeah.
So we rolled up, and by the way, it was the weirdest drive. So we were heading to Shanksville. We went by ground, and I was hauling a trailer of equipment, and we actually started out running code, and I'm like, there's nobody on the interstate.
Yeah.
There was nobody anywhere. Yeah. So I'm on the radio with my partner. I'm like, okay, I'm shutting all this down. Yeah. I'm just going to drive fast.
Get out of their way.
Because I don't think anybody cares.
Yeah, at that point.
So we haul all the way up there, and funny story, we're on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and we're getting ready to get off at the Somerset exit. And at the time, the Somerset exit was exit 10. It was like the Jersey Turnpike. You told people where you live by what exit off the turnpike you were, right?
Right.
So we're coming up to the exit, and he goes, well, get your money ready for the toll. And I'm like, get my money ready for the toll? What are you talking about? Oh, yeah, nobody rides the turnpike for free.
Even the FBI.
Right. So we get off. Well, they were waving us through. It was like, no, come on through. So we get there, and by this time it was getting later in the evening. Remember, September, sun was going down earlier, and our first call, because you got to remember, you cannot fathom the pressure that's being put on by the White House and by Congress. What is going on? They wanted stuff right now. And so we roll in, and the investigators from the Pittsburgh office who were already there, a lot of them were, hey, let's go. Let's get out there and do it. Well, it's getting dark. You're in the middle of a field in Pennsylvania. It is beyond dark out here. You're going to get somebody hurt. So we were able to convince them, look, let's stop. We need to survey this crash site for hazards. We'll be here first crack of light tomorrow morning. We'll clear it, and then we can start. So that's how, from the very beginning, we were trying to set the safety mindset into this operation. We didn't want anybody to get hurt digging this airplane out of the ground.
Yeah.
So that's how the whole thing started, Shanksville.
How did, when you show up on scene, you're the safety officer there. I mean, are you technically in charge of that scene? Are you the IC, or what's the blend?
No, it's incident command. The safety part it's just like it would be a safety officer during a structure fire. They're a member of the command staff. They advise the incident commanders of problems, but at this particular, because at Shanksville was such a high profile, was an assistant, we'll call it ASAC, assistant special agent in charge of the Pittsburgh office, and he was in charge. And make no question of it, but we would advise him of the hazards. And early on, and we knew him, which was fortunate. He understood that this was going to be a major undertaking, because we got out there the next morning and there was very little visible signs of an aircraft. There was the engines, because they were big, they were on the surface. Landing gear was on the surface, but the rest of that aircraft had gone into the ground or back into a forest. And so we knew it was going to be an extended operation. So we wrote a site safety plan, written just as you're supposed to do it, and we did a survey of the site. And for the next 14 days, we dug that aircraft out of the ground.
And we spoke earlier. How far down did you say that the airplane dug itself in when it crashed?
So we brought in heavy equipment operators, and so we started digging that hole. And again, I did not want it to be a trench. And here's the other problem. That aircraft hit a reclaimed strip mine, meaning they had got all the coal out that they wanted and filled it all back in with dirt. So it was disturbed dirt. It was runny. So I told the heavy equipment operators when we got there, this cannot become a trench. I need this hole to remain 1.5 times wider than it is deep at all times, which they didn't like, because they would have to move a whole lot more stuff. They were going to have to do benching, but they did it. They didn't have a choice. They were working for us. But
right. So
they ended up, one day, we were there about probably day 10 or so. One of them called me over and said, hey, I've hit just undisturbed dirt. They know with the bucket. I've hit the bottom. Okay. So that was at 34 feet. So 34 feet into the ground, we stopped the dig, because he basically, there's nothing past here. This is all hard ground below this. Now, the challenge was all the dirt we pulled out had to be sifted, every bit of it.
Yeah, it's a crime scene.
It's a crime scene. And we're looking for like teeth. You understand this thing hit so hard. There were no intact bodies. I know, and your listeners, I know all your listeners have probably made a pedestrian struck where the dude gets knocked out of his shoes.
Right.
We were finding buckled pants where person had been knocked out of their clothes. So we were finding bits and pieces, and that was all critical evidence. We were able to recover 44 distinct DNA signatures.
Wow.
40 crew members, 4 hijackers.
How long did that whole process take you guys?
2 weeks. We were there until Saturday the 24th, I think it was.
Yep. And how did that, from your associates that were at the Pentagon and at the World Trade Center, how are their experiences dealing with, obviously they were still digging for people at the time, but that's also a crime scene too, right? So, I mean, that's even more complicated.
Yep, it was more complicated. So both those sites were still active rescue operations. Not so much the Pentagon, but definitely Trade Center was still an active rescue operation. And this is something that's very, very important, again, for your listeners. No amount of evidence, and it doesn't matter how important the evidence is, nothing comes ahead of public safety. It's the same thing you were taught, and public safety, so lives come first, life safety comes first, property conservation, stabilization comes next. To me, as part of stabilization is where the evidence, the crime scene phase happens. Mm-hmm. And then you have the last part, which is property conservation. Well, we certainly don't want to destroy any evidence until we are done processing. So the hierarchy, if you will, life safety, stabilization, and the stabilization somewhere in there is the crime scene phase, and then property conservation.
Yeah.
So the guys at the Pentagon were working hand in hand with USAR and with Arlington County. Again, that relationship they already had with Jim Schwartz, who was the on-scene incident commander from Arlington County, paid off tremendously.
Yeah,
because they were able to, anything they were getting ready to do, hey, we want to do this. Good. We want to do that. Let's wait. So that all happened a little bit slower there. Ours was cut and dry. It was very clear. There was no rescue to be made. So we were immediately able to secure it and go into a crime scene phase.
And sorry, I was going to say, I mean, I think you gave 2 pretty good examples of what the THRU deals with as far as a deployment goes. I mean, you're talking national level terrorist event, and you talked about the recovery of a body, from a mob hit decades earlier. Is the rest of the scope of mission, up and down that chart of what you're dealing with?
Right. So the THRU mission, I'm sorry, I keep going on tangents. So
that's what we're here for.
So many stories.
Yeah, that's what we want.
The THRE mission is to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the investigators working these scenes. So all the evidence response teams, if they have something weird, they've got evidence down a well, which happens a lot, by the way. For whatever reason, people like to throw their guns down a well, and sometimes the bodies.
Yeah.
Confined spaces, high angle. We have, the unit has been to some amazing places doing evidence recovery. We had a team go to Unalaska, Alaska, which is where they filmed The Deadliest Catch. It's Dutch Harbor, Alaska. There was a homicide case, and the evidence was 1,100 feet down the side of a mountain.
Jesus.
And we were asked to come do that because of the scope of it.
Yeah. So high angle structural collapse. I'll give you an example. Nashville, Christmas, 3 Christmases ago, that it was a bombing. So there's a very weird thing, right? You have a post-blast scene, a bombing scene. Yes.
That has damaged the integrity of the structures around it.
Right.
So now what, right? So our guys went and they were able to work with Nashville Fire to basically designate go, no-go areas. And then if the evidence response team out of the I think it was the Knoxville office that was processing it at the time, is it either Memphis or Knoxville? I can't remember. Anyway, I'm sure they were both there.
Yeah.
They decided, hey, we really want to get in there to do, well, then we have to make a decision about shoring that structure. Yeah. So again, it's to protect their health and welfare. And about half, and I will tell you, the unit grew during this time frame because of 9/11, because of the anthrax case.
Right.
And I'm going to talk about the hazmat piece in a second, but we grew to a point where we had about 35-ish operators in the unit. Half of those National Register paramedics, and we can talk about the paramedic piece a little later if we have time. But so that's the mission of the unit. So all the evidence response teams would call us if they had something strange. Landfill digs. We would get called to handle all the logistics and safety while we dig through a landfill looking for a body.
Yeah, just because the unknown nature of it.
Yeah, because it's not a hazardous waste landfill. Yeah, right. What'd you throw away today?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
Right. And everybody does it. We know that. So we would do that, and we rope jobs. And another big thing that we started in the later, about the last 10 years of my career, the laboratory division is responsible for not only supervising the evidence response teams, but on a major shooting. So what I'm talking about, Pulse nightclub, Navy Yard, the Dallas shootings, the ambush of the police officers in Florence, South Carolina, all the Walmart shootings, all the school shootings. It just goes on, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The lab sends a team, and they are reconstruction specialists. So you've got people from the firearms tool marks unit. You got people from our operational projects unit that are high-end scanner and photography people.
Yeah.
You got people from the mothership evidence response team unit, and they would go to these shooting scenes. And you think, well, it's a shooting scene. It's no big deal. Well, until it's a shooting scene at a nightclub and it hit the sprinkler pipes, and now you got bloodborne pathogens mixed in with sprinkler water.
Yeah.
And by the way, when SWAT breached the building with a Bearcat, they took out a part of a load-bearing wall.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't even think of that.
So, right. And so very quickly, our unit started being an automatic deployment on what's called LSERT, Lab Shooting Reconstruction Team. So that became another big part of the mission over time. So essentially anything weird that happened from a traditional crime scene perspective, holes, trenches, tanks, the shooting, the Jason Aldean Route 91 shooting in Vegas.
Yeah.
The guy that was shooting from Mandalay Bay chucked a couple of rounds into fuel storage tanks on McCarran Airport.
Wow. That's
evidence.
Yeah.
So that's a permit required confined space. They had to drain the tanks of all the jet fuel, and between my guys on my team and guys from the armor team from Vegas Metro PD did a permit required confined space to go in and get those rounds out of that tank.
That's crazy.
So it just when you think you heard it and seen it all, it was never a dull moment.
No, and that's exactly why, when I first heard about this, I knew, obviously not to this extent, but I knew, it would bring tech rescue to strange places. And that's the interesting part, I think, to me.
Yep.
And go for it.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about the tech rescue piece. So I told you as time went on, we started really getting more and more involved away from hazmat, because the original name of the unit was a hazardous material response unit. 9/11 changed that.
Right.
Because they sent us knowingly to I still remember the conversations. Hey, we need safety officers at these sites. You guys were safety officers before in your old jobs. Why don't you go do it? Okay, we got this.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
Right.
So after that, and Steve Patrick saw the writing on the wall, he had our unit's name changed from the hazardous material response unit, which pigeonholed us into just doing hazmat. And I hadn't even started talking about hazmat with you yet.
Yeah.
To the technical hazards response unit, which covered anything hazardous.
Yeah. Smart.
Unless they were on 2 feet shooting a gun. That wasn't what we did. We were after evidence, and now we would come in after the shooting stopped, obviously. But so as we built this unit, we started focusing a lot more heavily on the tech rescue piece.
Yeah.
We started hiring people again because of who we were. We hired a guy named Charlie. He's retired, and I asked his permission. So Charlie Isley was in his pre-bureau career. He was down in Virginia Beach, Tidewater area, and he was kind of the guy on ropes and technical rescue. And he actually helped write, if he didn't write it all himself, he helped write the Virginia Department of Fire Programs rescue program. And then he got hired by the Maryland State Police on their trooper rescue helicopters, and he was doing that. And while he was in Maryland, he helped write Maryland's tech rescue book, which looked amazingly like Virginia's.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Tech rescue. Yeah. So we hired Charlie, and shocker, our stuff looks a lot like Virginia. And here's the other thing. We also hired a guy who still works there, so I'm not going to use his name, but he was, and still is, God love him, he's still a assistant chief as a volunteer with Caroline County, Virginia. But he was also a Virginia State Trooper.
Yeah.
And he was kind of the guy in the Richmond area for tech rescue, teaches every year at the structural collapse school down at Virginia Beach and teaches at the rescue school Virginia houses every year. And we hired him. And then we hired a guy, again, he's working there. I'm not going to use his name. He was at Mobile Fire Department. He was an Alabama task force guy, and he was on the NFPA 1670 committee. So we hired him. I think you're getting the picture.
Yeah, you guys are coaching everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
and
did.
Why not? Why not?
Because that's just it. Because number one, it was a cool gig, right? And it is a cool gig, 100%. Now, it comes with sacrifice.
Yes. And I do have some questions about that.
Yeah. We'll whole table that and we'll come back to it.
Yes.
But we were able to build this tech rescue program within the unit. And by the way, we never forgot where we came from. We maintained a relationship with Virginia Fire Programs. We actually got a state number for training. So all of our programs that we would teach, all pro board, all good to go with Virginia Fire Programs, we would encourage our guys to go teach on weekends at the fire schools, or if it was during the week, the structural collapse schools all week. Yeah. We sent our guys to teach.
Yep. That's where I ran into one of your boys out there. That's where I saw him. Yes. That's where this all began.
100%.
Yeah.
So we understood the importance of maintaining that relationship with the fire service tech rescue world as we built, because, and you know this, if you don't stay on top of what's new, I mean, good grief, look at rope rescue between Crolls and MPDs and all the thing that's happened over the past decade in rope rescue. My gosh, if you're not out there teaching every week, there is no way you're going to stay on top of that stuff.
You're falling behind.
And we started, I mean, I was a grumpy old school rescue guy. They walked in with, okay, number one, we're starting to call our ropes in millimeters. It's like, okay, well, fine. Yeah. And then they kept getting smaller. We're going to do 11. We're going to do 10. We're going to do 9. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Where are we going to end up?
Let me give you, this is one of my favorite tech rescue stories. And it really was, I've got to stop using the word tech rescue because we were not in the rescue business. We were using the skills a tech rescue technician has to recover evidence. Right. So, and the scope of our unit was global. So let me give you a great example. I got approached one day that we were going to be escorting a investigative team, not even an evidence recovery team, but an investigative team from the New York office as they searched a seized vessel from one of our adversaries. I'll leave it at that. That had been seized in the waters, Indonesian waters, off of the. It's like you can't make this up. The name of the city was Balikpapan, which is on the former island of Borneo.
Oh my God!
All right, and they said this thing is a rust bucket and is hazardous, and we need you guys to go and make sure the air quality on the ship is good. It's a cargo ship. It's a freighter. It's a big boat. And you can look it up. It was the Wise Honest. And so, and by the way, you're going to be boarding by boat because it's still sitting off the coast.
Yeah.
And you can only carry what's on your back.
That's crazy.
So we had to do hazardous air monitoring. We had to clear hazards on the ship. We knew we were going to have potentially to do rope. So we actually built an all soft gear tech bag. Everything on it was soft. No carabiners, no nothing. We couldn't, just because of the weight and everything else.
Yeah.
And so we everything, very small diameter. It was totally safe.
Yeah.
Everything we did. But it was me and actually the guy from Alabama that boarded it, and the mission went great. The ship was hazardous. We were able to isolate the hazard areas so they could do the search. But that's what our unit did. It allowed the traditional forensic investigator to do their job without getting hurt.
Yes.
And so that became the mantra and the mindset that we did during this mission.
Now you've alluded to some deployments. Let's talk about those deployments and what it takes. The phone rings, you could be going anywhere in the world. And what is I guess there's no typical schedule, but what does a year look like in, the through unit? And what are you facing as far as deployments and time away from home? And
what's typical? Wow. So a typical day, the higher ups of the bureau will hate this. A typical day at the office is not much different than a typical day in a fire station. Everybody in the unit has a program to run, whether that program be rope equipment, whether it be confined space equipment, whether it be tools, whether it be PPE, breathing apparatus. Everybody has a job. So when you're Any office not on a call, you're doing that. So very similar to station duties. And by the way, if any of your people have a chance to see our facility, and I know a lot of them may have, it was spotless. It was like a fire station. The trucks were clean. Heaven help you if you brought a dirty truck back into the bay low on fuel.
That's anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know that within 30 seconds of walking in any fire station in this country, you know the level of professionalism and how they feel about the job.
Of course.
And it was no different in our place. The floors are spotless, the trucks are spotless, and we always got that comment. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Everything's so clean. Yeah, we know.
Perception.
And it is perception, and another perception. Oh, it's the FBI. They got money. They just buy new trucks. No, we got a heavy rescue sitting in that station. That heavy rescue is a 2004 Pierce heavy rescue. 2004. It's 22 years old. It still rolls out, and it's still clean as could be. And it's been driven all over the country.
Yeah.
So that's a typical day. So how we get sent on missions happens two ways. One, something big would happen, and we kind of laugh. We had the TV news on. And all over the place, because like the bombing in Nashville, now that was Christmas. That was a little different.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, the guys that were on call that Christmas saw that blow up and they're like,
it's open source intelligence.
That's right.
Right.
So one way we get a call is that something happens. Somehow it's figured out that it's going to be a federal investigation. If it's a federal investigation, it's definitely going to be the FBI going. If the FBI going, the evidence response team would then call back to the evidence response team unit in our same building there in Fredericksburg, and they would do a conference call. They say, look, here's what we have. I'll use Nashville as an example. A bomb's blown up. We got blast debris for X number of blocks, and we've got buildings that are structurally damaged. Hearing that, ERTU then goes, okay, we're going to send you more ERT teams from around you, because they manage the whole bureau, but we're going to send THRU to do medical, your logistics, and your safety. And then they deploy. And who deploys and how much, that's case by case. There's no cookie cutter. In that particular case, we knew we needed structural equipment. We knew we needed communication. So all that rolled. And then once they get there, that first on-scene guy, and in that particular case, it was the guy who from Caroline County, Virginia, we hired. He seeks out the incident commander, and he says, look, here's our objectives. We got to collect this evidence. We're going to do it safely. We need to blend into your incident command structure and do this together. And that's the other thing. All this stuff. Oh, we're the FBI here. You guys can leave now. That never happens.
Yeah.
My unit never. I was there 25 years. We never ever told anyone, okay, we're here. You can go.
Right.
In fact, the opposite often happened.
Yeah.
Where I'll give you an example. We did a lab shooting in Colorado. I was at a Jewish synagogue, and we rolled up and started working with the fire guys. And I said, hey, the fire service, hey, you guys got a roof ladder? I said, 14 foot if you got it. Yeah. So they get the roof ladder and they go, we're working this thing. Of course, we take a long time and we're painfully slow, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. They eventually in the evening hey, you guys got this, right? Yeah, we got it, but we love having you here. Yeah. Can we just leave you a bunch of ladders and
we got food in the kitchen back at the station.
It's funny. So we're going to go back to the station. If you need us, call us back out. But you guys are good. And it's like, that doesn't happen unless you had that connection, right?
Right.
So that's one way missions go is no notice. The other one's based on intel. That's kind of where it gets a little more challenging. So we get like a great example. The guy in the ground behind the power station in Providence. That was all intel based. So when we roll into town on something like that, that's when you're going to get, you'll be sitting at your station. You're going to get that call from some random FBI dude.
Yeah.
That says, hey, not for nothing, but we're in your town now. And tomorrow morning at 8:00, well, we usually serve them early. At 6:00, we're going to serve a warrant on this property. And there's pick your poison. There's a well, there's something that's involving tech rescue or hazmat on your property. And we'd really like your assistance. So if you could have your rescue company meet me in the Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
On Broadway at 5:30, that would be great. And that kind of stuff happens more often than you think. And when we had that, and it's a case, again, building that relationship. Hey, I get it. I can't tell you the address. I can't tell you the name of the people we're going to serve a warrant on. It's OPSEC. you cannot tip your hand before the warrant is served.
Of course.
And I mean, I'll go all the way back to Waco. That whole thing, the reason they knew that ATF was coming was because somebody told somebody they were coming.
Yeah.
So we certainly don't want to do that.
No.
So either something happens or we get intel that something's going on. That's how we get involved. So I haven't talked about the hazmat piece.
Yes.
At all. And I know this is a tech rescue show, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time.
We do talk hazmat. That's the dark art. We love it. We do love it.
That's right. So our unit, let me back up. The FBI laboratory has built a system between agents, supervisory agents that we train in hazmat, chem, bio, rad, scientists from our scientific response and analysis unit. They did the same thing with the scientists they did with the hazmat guys. They cherry-picked PhD chemists, PhD microbiologists, nuclear specialists. Dude, our nuclear specialists either ran reactors on land or ran reactors on vessels.
The underwater type?
The underwater type.
Yeah.
Or were heavily involved in the weapons systems. I mean, dude, the scientists are a who's who. And I got to tell you, I got so spoiled. I go on a ricing job and I got a PhD microbiologist standing next to me. I said, what do you think? I'm not worried about it. Well, if you're not worried about it,
that's a good thing.
I'm not worried about it.
Right.
And then the hazmat officers, that triad, the experienced CBRN trained agent, the experienced scientist, experienced hazmat officer, that set the stage for what we were able to accomplish during the anthrax case and beyond. Over that time, the field offices, we upped their hazmat response teams, the people that work in the office that we train at our facility, to 24 teams throughout the United States. That's where it is currently today. It was higher at one point. It's been brought back to 24. That's the bigger offices.
Yeah.
But so essentially, if you get that real bio, chem, rad mission, these are the folks that are going to come and be the evidence collectors. Because, as you know, hazmat is terribly unforgiving of mistakes. It is normally our policy that if we are doing a hazmat job, scientists, hazmat officer, and that agent from the lab are going to be on a jet and be there when they go downrange, because we're acting as their hazmat safety officer and their hazmat scientist. And the folks in the field, they're very good, but it's not their day job.
Yeah.
Their day job is white-collar crime and healthcare fraud and crimes against children and counterintelligence and foreign counterintelligence and just amazing skill sets that they have. And we've asked them to put on the hazmat hat.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that they're totally safe when they do that. The other thing is once we process that crime scene, all that evidence has to get taken back to a national forensic lab. You can't put that stuff in FedEx.
Yeah.
So yet another job of THRU is to move all hazardous evidence from around the world that's coming back to a national FBI laboratory.
Interesting.
I've literally done the global round trip on FBI aircraft to pick up evidence in some foreign country to get it back to the FBI lab. And they like to fly with prevailing winds at their back, so they'll take off headed east.
Yeah.
And they'll land wherever on the other side of the world, and they'll take off and head east again.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you've circled the globe in a Gulf Stream.
You brought up a good point about going overseas. How does that work when you guys go overseas? You just fall into that attaché for whatever that country is, or how do those inter-country relationships work?
Yep. So the FBI, as you mentioned, the FBI has legal attachés. They're not called that anymore. They're called law enforcement liaisons or law enforcement attachés now. It changed since I left. So apologies if I got it wrong. But in last count that I knew, about 80 to 90 embassies and consulates around the world is an FBI employee, at least one. And they're called LEGATs, and they have assistant LEGATs called ALATs. So LEGATs and ALATs, their job is to interact with the local law enforcement in that country and to build a relationship. So when something weird happens, you immediately get a call. So great story on that. I'm sitting in the office one day and Steve Patrick comes in and says, "Hey, how soon can you get to the airport? We got to go to Georgia." And I'm like, cool. Well, a quick flight on the Gulf Stream, right? Like 45 minutes to Georgia. No. Not that Georgia. The Republic of Georgia, because they just found their prime minister lying dead in an apartment. And this is in 2005, and it's only about 10 years out of their independence from USSR. You can imagine that everybody's kind of freaking out a little bit. So we loaded up kit, and we had intel that potentially he had died from carbon monoxide poisoning, but they had no way to to prove it. No way whatsoever. So we loaded up our stuff, jumped on the Gulfstream, flew nonstop. It's hilarious. Flew nonstop to Tbilisi, Georgia. We were flying above 50,000 feet to save fuel.
My Lord.
I mean, all you could do is look out the window and go, man, if one of these windows break, it
won't even matter.
It is just over.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we immediately got to work, and we set up remote multi-gas monitors in the apartment, relit the gas-fired space heater that was there, and were able to recreate a very hypoxic down to 18% O2, and also the presence of CO from the space heater. So with that, based on that, we were able to help them with lab testing, and we found carboxyhemoglobin in the tissue samples. So based on all that, we were able to tell the Georgians, hey, it kind of looks like CO poisoning caused the death. So stuff like that would happen. That's pretty cool stuff. So all that happened because the legal attaché there in Tbilisi had a relationship with the Georgian National Police.
Yeah.
And as soon as they realized they had a problem, they immediately called him and said, can you get these people here for us? And of course we said yes. The last funny part of that, we land, because we didn't have visas. We didn't have anything. We just literally picked up our stuff and went.
Yeah. And
so we're thinking, how are we going to get these visas and all this? So we land at the airport, and this dude from the Georgia National Police gets on, and he immediately comes on, a big grin on his face. He says, my American friends, FBI National Academy graduate.
Yeah,
like,
there's your visa.
There's your. And he literally took our passports and went, and there you go, we're good.
Nice.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
and how many times are you called out overseas? Like in a given time? Like how is that often? Is it?
It's hard to say. Several times a year. When I was there, at least several times a year, we would get called overseas. Certainly not as much work as we had in the United States.
Yeah, you're busy enough.
And here's the other thing too, with the unit, we saw in my time there, the start of the use of anthrax as a weapon, start of really large scale use of ricin as an assassination tool, because that's really what it is. We saw the uptick in fentanyl happen, and and then we saw the arrival and concern about fourth generation nerve agents. And as each one of those things would happen, we would stay in front of it, and our unit would help the scientists and the other people at the lab get the word out, at least inside the Bureau. And in a lot of cases, I'll use fentanyl as a case, we had the gentleman who's now the unit chief was spending his days at the White House writing the guidance that eventually you had for fentanyl.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of the challenges we would have when this stuff would happen, people immediately like, oh my gosh, we got to have fully encapsulating suits. Or like, hey, let's follow the science, shall we?
Yeah.
We were huge proponents of risk-based response. We processed the entire anthrax case from 2001 till 2009 in level C.
Wow.
with a respirator and Cernex, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you needed.
Yeah.
Totally safe.
Yeah.
The entire time that I was there, we went fully encapsulating suit that I know of twice.
Really?
Twice. One was at Graniteville, the train derailment, because something else I forgot to tell you. We have a memorandum, the FBI lab has a memorandum of agreement with NTSB to assist with major crash scenes. Matter of fact, some of my co-workers were just in Louisville at the UPS plane crash, helping NTSB, but they're there for NTSB and helping them stay safe while they process the scene. But at Graniteville, we were helping NTSB collection of evidence from the train derailment, but there was still a chlorine release. So that was one time. The other time was in the biosafety level 4 suite at USAMRIID at Fort Detrick.
Wow.
And that's the only times I remember ever being in fully encapsulating suits, because we followed a risk-based response.
Yeah. I mean, you got the people there to tell you, I mean, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Now, granted, we have the ability to put on the brakes a little bit and do a good assessment on things, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think that goes back to some of the questions of like, you guys, and you sound almost like a USAR team in a sense, but you operate very differently in the fact that you are able to slow things down and look at that recovery base side and take that time.
The equipment's the same. This everything's the same. Air shores, and we actually switched to hydraulics. Everything we're using for the rope guys, Arizona Vortex. Everything's the same.
Yeah,
everything's the same, except we're not going after live people.
Right. Exactly. But so I mean, and you talked about the caliber of people that obviously joined the team early on. What are the type of people that the through unit looks for when they are nowadays, if they're taking applications? Who are they looking for?
So thanks for mentioning that. We are still, it's open-ended, and you can go to my Facebook page and see it, my LinkedIn page and see it. But the email address is, and if I don't know, you can post or whatever, but it's labrecruiting@fbi.gov. And just send a resume and tell them you're interested. But we'll come back to that. The kind of people we're looking for are self-motivators. We're looking for people in two buckets, either at the end of their fire service, public safety career. It doesn't need to be fire service. It could be a law enforcement. At the end of their public safety career, looking to not quite hang it up yet, or they're in that weird 5 to 10 year, I've been in long enough to learn some things, but I haven't been in there long enough where if I walk away from my pension, it's going to bother me, right? It's hard for us to get the people in the last 5 years of their public safety career because they are looking at that pension rainbow. So those are harder to get. Yeah. But so those are the two buckets. The reason we want the younger people is for continuity,
right?
Because the old guys, they'll give us 10 years tops, right? Some will stay longer, but anyway. So skills, hazmat technician. This is if the perfect candidate, hazmat technician on a Type 1 mitigation team. Not that you're going to be patching and plugging rail cars, but I need you to know everything about rail cars. Yep. You're not going to be putting a C kit on. Don't care. But I need you to know that there's 2 liquid valves, 2 vapor valves, and a pressure relief device in the dome of that DOT 105J car. Because if it's rolled over at a crime scene, I need you to go, okay. So you know the threat, right? So hazmat tech, technical rescue technician, perfect world. 1006, 1670. I know they changed the numbers. I can't keep up. Rope, high angle, confined space, permit required confined space, lockout, tag out, trench rescue. So 1926, 650, 651, 652, up on that. We actually will send you to OSHA competent person for soil and everything, believe it or not. Yep. And then structural collapse. I'm missing something. Trench, rope, structural collapse, heavy tools. Heavy tool. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you guys do any swift water? You deal with the water?
Thank you. See, that's why you're here.
That's exactly it.
So the Bureau has 4 underwater search and recovery teams. They're called USERTs, underwater search and evidence recovery teams. One in Miami, one in LA, one in Washington field office, and one in New York. They go all over the world. THRU is their surface support. So if they're going to do a current dive in a stream or a river, we set the high lines, and we do the control of the if they're working off a boat in the river, we do all the control line stuff for the boat. We are their dive medical technicians. So all of our medics are cross-trained. We send them to the school down at Florida State University or Florida Institute of Underwater Technology down in Florida to get their DMT. Yes, twist my arm. You're going to send me to Key Largo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, but it is what it is. So we have a very, very engaged support for them. We prep the site for them because if they're doing a river entry and there's brush in the way, we clear the brush. Mm-hmm. It's just all the little things on the water side to allow the divers to do nothing but focus on diving. Your divers shouldn't be wearing themselves out clearing trees out of the way. Yeah. Your divers shouldn't be wearing themselves out hanging ropes across the river. So that's where our support to maritime comes in.
Gotcha. In talking about getting on the team like that, you bring these people on. You guys, obviously you've been around. You work with local teams. Is there anything that local rescue teams can do to better prepare for incidents that are eventually going to scale up to the federal level?
Just beyond making sure they've got good skill sets for their normal operations. And the biggest thing is to recognize when, I know this thing came out as a rescue in a well, but something's not adding up here. So making that call to law enforcement. And as I told you, if it goes federal, we'll be involved. But in some cases, the support that we provide is in support of local and state law enforcement just because they don't have the equipment or the expertise to pull it off. Yeah. So the big thing is stay up on your skills. Don't recognize when something's getting ready to potentially be criminal. That's huge. And notify their local law enforcement to get that ball rolling. One thing to not do. Don't change anything you normally do thinking it's what you think the FBI would want you to do. That makes any sense. Yeah. Don't say, oh, well, we ought to start doing it this way because no, do things as you would normally do them. That's defensible in court. That's 100% defensible in court. What's not defensible in court is, well, Mr. Howard, why did you rig your rope system this way? Well, I thought it's what they would want me to do.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Howard, why? You're not law enforcement, are you? And so, because all they're trying to do is to discredit you and what you do in the hopes of getting their client off.
Of course.
So just do what you do.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, when we go on these things, we're not going to tell you to leave. Dude, we need the manpower.
Yeah, of course.
And that's it. You asked just about, it's not unusual for us to send out a crew on a rope job with 3-4 people.
Yeah.
Because we are depending on getting that manpower on the other end. Now, we're going to request it this is what's really interesting. We get like a high angle job where there's evidence to be like the side of a cliff or something. This is going to sound weird. We're going to strap a evidence response team member from the field office in a harness, and we're going to build a system, and we're going to lower them down precisely to that piece of evidence so they can collect it, photograph it, collect it properly, and then they're going to say, "I'm good," and we're going to go, "Okay," and we're going to bring them back up, because that's the best possible scenario when it goes to court.
Right. Yeah.
Now, everybody in our unit has been cross-trained in evidence collection. But in a perfect world, our job is to pave the way where a normal evidence response team person can go and collect that evidence safely. Whether it's at the bottom of an excavation, whether it's at confined spaces are different, right? Because you can't engineer out a lot of that. So usually confined space is going to be my guys, my old team doing it. But structural collapse, we'll shore it up. Okay. Yeah. Go do whatever you need to do. Don't go there. Don't touch this. Yeah, we say that a lot. And we would say that, like, all right, don't touch it. Don't lick it. Don't move it.
Yeah, typical amongst firefighters. We have to tell them that too.
Right. You also asked about a typical day. I kind of gave you. You're on call 2 out of 3 weeks.
Do you have to be down in the Quantico area?
2 out of 3 weeks.
You have to be down in that area too.
Yeah, you have. So you have to move. You have to live in the Fredericksburg area within reason, and you're on call for 2 out of 3 weeks. One of those weeks is anything goes. If a shooting comes out, if a technical operation comes out, if a dive mission comes out, if a hazmat mission comes out, you're primary on the hook for that. So you pretty much know that week you're going to go someplace. It's almost unheard of we call it's green status. If you're in green status, you're going to go somewhere. The other week that you're on call is to be on call if a improvised nuclear device detonates and it's gone, fissile, it's gone boom. Mm-hmm. Now you're on a team that has a very short window to get there and collect debris and get it to a lab. They just exercised that in Colorado this week or last week.
That's cool.
But that mission's called National Technical Nuclear, it's NTNF, National Technical Nuclear Forensics Program. And it's kind of weird, looking back in retrospect, it was weird that everybody in the shop, it's just normal.
Yeah. Waiting for the nuclear bomb to go off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're on call for those mission sets. You're in the house. Hey, are you on call this week? Yeah, I'm on call for the Render Safe mission and the NTNF. Okay, cool.
Yeah. You want to grab a beer later?
Dude, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so no, you can't grab a beer.
Oh, you're on call. Yeah.
You're on call, baby.
Yeah. A non-alcoholic O'Doul's.
There you go. That's fair.
Yeah. Perfect.
So to finish up that discussion on a typical day, working your programs, being on call for all those mission sets, being on call for the national readiness missions, and then other duties as given. Any NSSE, National Special Security event, you're probably going to go. Political conventions, inauguration's the difference. It's in DC. Council of Governments. Because what the philosophy is, you move these national resources closer to the potential problem in case something happens. So sprinkle in a few of those in the year, and before you know it, you've had a busy year. It is a tremendous commitment by the people who work there.
Yeah.
The men and women who work there, it is a tremendous, tremendous commitment to not only move to Virginia, move to a specific part of Virginia, to be on call 2 out of 3 weeks, to maintain the skill set. So there's a lot of training that goes on. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of our training is on the job because, I guess we don't have to practice ropes tomorrow because we just did a rope job, right?
Yeah, right.
So it is tremendous commitment. Now, but they're compensated well for it.
Yeah.
It's a relatively high GS job.
Just coming in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming in GS, I forget what the posting was. I think it's like you started at GS 9 through 11 based on skills plus DC locality pay, but within 1 year it's GS 12, and within another year it's GS 13.
Wow, that's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're big time six figures.
Yeah.
By the time
that's like the high executive GS positions. The big
so
boys.
15's as high as it goes. So supervisors in THRU are 14s.
Wow. Okay.
And the unities are 15.
There you go. So you talked about the, staying current on the skills and working on the skills for the regular fire service crews and USAR teams. What are ways that, they should be looking to better themselves? How can teams better themselves? Just regular USAR teams or fire teams, or what advice do you have for them?
As far as
staying current, as far as bettering their own teams.
Absolutely. Number one, don't live in a stovepipe. I cannot, and I will not mention any names. I cannot tell you how many times over the years I have gone out on a job to a place you would think has the best people in the world and has the best techniques and modern equipment, and you get there and it's like, holy smokes!
The curtain's been pulled.
These guys are still back in the they're still using figure eights and racks, and you're like,
yeah.
Dude, the world has passed you by. What happened? Well, we don't have a budget to send people out. We can't afford to send people to conferences. Well, I got it. It shows. You have got to, and you don't have to send the whole team, but send some of your more experienced, send them to a conference. You and I mentioned I'm going to the Hazmat conference in Baltimore next week. I've been going to that conference every year since the mid 90s. And it's not, I teach there. I get it. All right. But I also go and I sit in on people's lectures because I always learn something.
Yeah. I think it's impossible to walk out without meeting one person or learning one new thing. It's impossible.
You're right. So my advice is, number one, all your mutual aid companies, spend time together, train together, because you never know when you're going to have the big job that goes for hours and hours and hours, and you need bodies or you need extra equipment. So make sure you're at least with your mutual aid companies, your neighbors, that you work with them. Second thing, send people to conferences. And I don't mean it's going to, no matter how I say this, it's going to sound bad. Don't limit it to your regional conferences and your state conferences.
No, absolutely not.
You have got to send people to the national, NASAR, USAR, all that stuff, at least, if not annually, every other year, because, and then the other thing, I don't see how you cannot do this. All your big companies, Petzl, CMC, all these guys, they have seminars. They have conferences. Yeah. Send them, because, I mean, gosh, the equipment that those people have rolled out in the last 5 years alone to make your life easier.
Yep.
I mean, belaying somebody is like, it used to be like the worst job ever.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it pretty much takes care of itself.
Yes, very much so.
And I don't know I know you're all your guys, we had a hands off, or we called the whistle test. We had people on rope. So it blows a whistle. If everybody lets go, nobody moves. Nothing moves. And that's
a good drill.
It's a great drill.
Yeah.
You had catch systems in place, and that's the way we trained. But the only reason we knew that is because our people stayed active and went to conferences.
Yeah. No, I think that's an incredibly, and some people just don't. It's exactly like, we're not going to send this guy, but it's so important just to bring that outside view back to the department.
And that's the key. You got to tell them, okay, we're sending you to this conference, but our expectation on the back end is that you tell us what you learned. So, and you also can't discount the value of having an outside instructor.
Yes.
I don't care how, I was spoiled rotten. I had national level instructors in my building every day. And my big background's hazmat. I mean, I do tech rescue. As Charlie Eisler would say, I'm mediocre at best. Okay. I can set a system, and I will make sure you have a safe day, but I am not going to be the think outside of the box guy for tech rescue. But I had a bunch of people in the building that were think outside of the box guys in tech rescue or tech operations. So
that's what the team's for.
My point here is, all right, you can't afford to send people to conferences. Maybe you need to have somebody come in and do a class for you. Have somebody come in and do a class from one of the big companies, or have, I know you understand what I'm saying, but
no, expand your horizon. I mean, that's it.
So the big takeaway, if coming back around to your original question on, as we started this part of the podcast, if something's going criminal and you know that the Bureau is getting involved, just be open-minded because you got to understand they're looking at things from a different mindset. They're looking at things from the perspective of putting someone in jail for a long time. To do that, certain things have to be done that your typical public safety team just doesn't come across, like warrants.
Right.
Yeah, well, I know we're here, but we can't go into your well yet because we don't have a search warrant yet. And that happens more often than you would think, by the way. So just make sure you're working with the Bureau. Now, I can tell you, if my unit comes there, my guys are going to gravitate to you like crazy because that's their world they came from. And you'll know, because they'll kind of just suck over to where you are and give you the secret handshake. And from that point on, you'll be working side by side. Nashville's a great example of that.
Yeah.
The guys who were there in Nashville hooked up with Nashville Fire, and they worked that entire scene side by side. I don't know. Every single photograph from that scene, you can see people, they're standing together, right? And this is the Unified Command Post. That's over there. This is ops people together. So the big takeaway, be looking for that technical. If the FBI laboratory is coming, make sure that you're staying in good liaison with them. Even if they're not coming, make sure that you're looking out for the safety of those FBI employees who are very good at what they do, but sometimes the safety is the last thing on their mind. And it's one of the biggest challenges we have is when we get a new scientist in the scientific unit, because they love science. And now all of a sudden they're going to real stuff.
Right.
They're going to real nerve agent.
Yeah.
They're going to real ricin.
Yeah.
Because our unit does all that. And okay, got it. Dude, it's cool.
Yeah.
We gotta make sure that this environment is safe for you to go in before you do your thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a running joke we have because they are very, very, very smart. So kind of the running joke is all the scientists keep us technically advised on all the science, and THR, you guys keep them from killing themselves while they do it. So
that's fair. That's a fair trade-off.
Yeah, it's a great trade-off. It's a great trade-off. And I will mention, if you needed another incentive, any real use of CBRNE that happens in the United States for sure, and around the world again, anything that's real, that team is going.
Right.
My old unit is going.
Right.
Anything.
Yeah.
Nerve agents, mustard, lewisite, chlorpicrin. We had a chlorpicrin case, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In Hawaii. Anthrax, smallpox, you name it. They're going. Ricin, toxins, tetrodotoxin, pufferfish toxin. Who the heck? We had a case in Chicago. Our guys went. So anything that's real, this unit's going. So it's a very job satisfaction is up here, right?
Yeah.
Wear and tear on the family and commitment is up here. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
But you're working at the highest level. And I think that's.
You're working at the highest level. And that's the other thing. Now, I retired a year and a half ago now. I couldn't stop. I knew I couldn't stop. So I moved back to my home state, to Kentucky. I actually rejoined my old fire department.
Nice.
As a training instructor, helped them out with hazmat stuff. I'm fortunately now back and will be able to help more than I have been in the last year. I was on the NFPA Technical Committee for Hazmat Response Personnel. I stayed on that as a representative of my new fire department. It's actually my old fire department that I was on 30 years ago. It's hilarious. But I'm still helping to teach FBI classes because I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
It's
addiction.
It's not the addiction. I guess it is an addiction. It was such a high level pace. I think stopping would have been devastating.
Of course.
So I'm going to.
And plus, I imagine it's the quality of the people makes it that much better too.
Dude, the quality of the people, you're in the same building with the A team. And I mean, it's the A team in everything in our world.
Right.
The best hazmat people, the best scientists, the best rope guys, the best trench guys.
Yeah, that's hard to come down from.
The best forensic guys, like they actually shared the building with us. Just amazing. And I got spoiled. Something weird. I'll give you some weird bio thing would pop up on the news. I'm like, what the hell's that? So I just walked down to the microbiologist. Hey, what's this? That's blah, 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 blah. Cool. You get used to that. And when you don't have it anymore, like it hurts, right?
It's a void.
So, yeah.
It's a void. Well, I could certainly understand that. But it's good to see that you're still out there. And I wish I was able to see you at the the hazmat conference this week. Maybe next year. We'll get to it next year for sure. But in closing, I just wanted to say, thank you very much for coming on and, giving us a behind the scenes look at the THRU. And I know you had some information again. If you just want to say it one more time for anyone interested in, the FBI's THRU unit, where can they look?
Yep. So they can send an email with their resume. That's all you need to do. You don't have to write anything. Just, I'm interested in the Technical Hazard Response Unit or the THRU position and their resume. And they send it to lab recruiting, all one word, at FBI.com.
Perfect. We'll get that. We can get that link up too. In closing, I have one final question for you. Stanley Goodspeed from The Rock. Is that a good rendition? I mean, did they nail it or what?
We love Stanley Goodspeed. So it's funny you said that. Of course. All right. Elegant string of pearls configuration doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looked cool.
It's a fun movie. Intracardiac atropine, not recommended. That was, yeah. Especially not on yourself.
Yes.
Cool movie. We love it. But we made a certificate of completion for our hazardous evidence course.
Yeah.
And it's 2 weeks. It's hard. It's because we're training these people in the field how to be hazmat evidence collectors. But we made a certificate for Stanley Goodspeed and we put it in the classroom. Dr. Stanley Goodspeed has passed hazardous evidence crime scene course. And all these new agents would come in and they're going, Dr. Stanley Goodspeed,
who's this guy?
Who's Dr. Stanley Goodspeed? And you're like, we finally had to take it down just because it was killing us.
No, you should make the movie part of the class. You have to watch it.
Right. Yeah. So we love Stanley Goodspeed.
Yes, that's good.
He's cool dude.
I'm sure recruitment jumped after that movie for sure.
Well, I'm sure. I think for the Bureau, it probably did.
Exactly.
It's amazing. I know we're going to stretch it out, but big events cause upticks in recruiting.
Yes.
So I'll leave it at that.
No, that's, and we appreciate your time. And maybe next time it'll be at Quantico. Maybe we can meet up at Quantico and, we'll do a tour. I think that'd be pretty cool. I know you got an inn over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we can make that happen. That's perfect. Well, sir, thank you very much again. And I got your patch. It's awesome. I appreciate it.
And I got yours. Thank you.
Perfect. It's on display. And we'll definitely see you next time on the Rescue Lab. For everyone else, hey, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Rescue Lab. If you found value in today's conversation and want to help strengthen the rescue community, consider supporting the New England Rescue Collaborative Foundation. Every donation helps fund technical rescue scholarships, training opportunities, and educational incentives that prepare rescuers before the next call comes in. You can learn more or make a tax-deductible donation at NE Rescue Collaborative. And one last favor, if you enjoy the Rescue Lab, the best way to help us grow is by leaving a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps more rescuers discover these conversations and keeps us bringing you stories and lessons from some of the world's best rescue professionals. Until next time, keep learning, keep training, and remember, no one else is coming. It's up to us. I'm PJ Halloran, and this is the Rescue Lab.